And here we start part 3 of courting and dating. Part 1 we discussed similarities and differences. Just surface ones, pretty much the difference, between courting and dating, and also like not being unequally yoked with your vibration, your spiritual path with somebody. Part 2 we discussed family and looking out. Oh, excuse me. Looking out for what you do and don't want in a family, like how you want to raise your kids, because these people are going to be possibly be a part of your children's upbringings as well. You got to know what kind of family you're getting into, and decide if that's really something you want or not. That's just the way it is. And if your person has boundaries with their family that are healthy and well kept. So part 3. Alright, Spirit, what are we talking about part 3? We've covered beliefs, we've covered family. Children. Okay, so these days, most people are on their second or third or plus marriage, or at least relationship that involves children. Myself, I am divorced, been pretty much single. Like, I've not taken a serious, I've not had anything serious. I've not really had anything serious since I've been divorced. I've been divorced for what? 10 years. At least 10. I've kind of lost count at this point. I really don't care. Like the longest like living with somebody else and walking life together, partnership I've had with somebody was about a year long, and we were best friends, lovers, we lived together, but yet we were open. We were, hey, we're not in a relationship. We are just doing what we're doing. Which I can't say was the healthiest thing, but at the time, that's where we were. And so, yeah, other than that, no. Like maybe a month, maybe 2 months, 3 months, I might have put up with somebody. But not much more than that. So I've been pretty much single the whole 10 years, and there's good reason for that. And I like to interview people. Like, I like to really know people before I bring them around my children. Sometimes I don't. I mean, last person I brought around my children was somebody that was a recovering heroin addict that I was helping, basically an assignment. I was called back to Kentucky to take care of my brother's body and try to figure out what was going on with his estate and his children. And so it was a whole fucking shit show, honestly. And I made it through it with flying colors, unconditional love, self-control. Damn near killed me. It damn near fucking killed me. I pretty much crawled back out to California in order to heal. Yeah, and I'm still on that healing journey. I still ain't quite out of the woods yet on that. I'm still working on some things. Which is, life is a continual healing process. But with children, you know, these days you got all these baby mamas, baby daddies, you got the psycho ones, you got the good ones, you got the co-parents that are amazing. You got the shit you got to deal with the grandparents. You got all this when it comes to kids. So, first and foremost, I think the most important thing is to know who your kids are. And I don't mean just like, no. Like, I mean, if, like, for instance, if you're going to come at me for a dating relationship, a dating or courting relationship, especially if it's courtship, seeing as that's looking towards marriage and being life partners. If you were looking to court me, then you would most definitely have to have a fucking DNA test proving that child is yours. No DNA test, don't even approach me. Don't. Just don't. Because I'm not playing with these bitches out here that's dangling a DNA test. You know, oh, I'll go get it. And no, it's okay. I don't need a DNA test. I know the kid's mine. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if it looks like it came out your butthole, buddy. I want the DNA test. I want proof that baby is yours, that child is yours, whatever. It's got to be proof, solid proof that it's yours. We can do child support, whatever. You know, you first of all, you need to be doing that on your own anyway, if that's what you got to do. You know, so like if you got things like that's pulling from you, if you got a crazy baby mama, if you got crazy grandparents, whatever, you gotta get that shit took care of. And so like right now I'm stable with that. My kids stay with their dad's grandparents because my parents are dead. She doesn't ask me for child support because if she did, then she would have to get it from her son, the father of my children. And he's back in jail again. Like since I left, he pretty much, you know, lives in jail, prison, for the most part. Like he might get out for 6 months to a year and then find himself back in there. So like she would have to go after him for child support, in which case then she would still be paying, she would just be paying herself child support. So it's pointless. Okay. So, which is good because it gives me an opportunity to build myself up and to build a home for my children to come to if they ever decide that they want to speak to me again. So, and my children are mostly grown. My boys will be 21 and 18 in December. My daughter will be 16 this summer. So, they're pretty much grown. And, you know, I was there for the biggest first portion of their lives. And, then after my mom passed, I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle it. So I let them go stay with their dad's family. Yeah, because I knew they would be at least physically, materialistically taken care of. I knew they'd always had the lights on, the water running, and have whatever food and clothes they needed. And it was better. To me, it seemed like a better option. Much as I didn't want to make that choice, it was still a better choice than playing Russian roulette with the system and putting my kids in foster care until I could take care of them, you know. So that's the way my situation is. So, and I know who my kids are. Like I know, like my kids actually have several half brothers and sisters. Sisters maybe not so much, but definitely they've got at least two to three half brothers that we know about that like right before, during, and who knows. Oh, and then they've got two half brothers after, you know, by his second wife. But and you know that's like a package deal to me because their mother's not in the picture either. And so if something was to happen to their grandparents, then I would most definitely, well, my oldest son would probably be the one to want to step in and be that 21-year-old parent. But at the same time, with his record that he's been building so far, it's not going to be likely that they're going to give those kids to him. So they need somebody with some serious love and maternal instinct. And so that's like my kids, that's their brothers. It's a whole package deal. You know, if my kids come live with me, their brothers are more than welcome in my home, in my heart, because that's my children's siblings. That's a part, you know, they share a connection. My kids have helped raise their brothers, you know. That's something that you don't mess with when it comes to kids. I don't care if it's mine or not, I'm gonna love it. Yeah, so that's just where I stand with it, personally. But yeah, my brother went through some stuff where when he was murdered, he was in the middle of trying to decide, you know, whether he's scared or not to get the DNA test. Like, he ordered DNA tests. His children's DNA is on file at the DFACS office or somewhere. It's on file somewhere for child support and stuff reasons. And he was just afraid to go in there and get the test, and then they killed him before anything could be done. So rest assured that if anything comes up with that, those children will be tested to make sure. Now, in my book, in my heart, doesn't matter. Those are, you know, the first one looks just like me. The second one looks like my dad when he was a little boy, except she's a little girl. And the third one is the one that's mainly in question, but at the same time, she looked like she came out my brother's butthole. So, so to speak, you know. So yeah, I would still get the test just to shut everybody's fucking mouth. And if any of those girls turned up not being my brothers, it wouldn't make a fuck, because those were his girls and those are my girls. That's just the way it is. Those are the Gwyn girls, and they were my brother's girls, and they're my girls. Because I'll not talk about the rest of that. That's for a whole different video. But I've always called them my girls. I've always known they're my girls, you know. And I've always held space for them. My mom helped me pay my rent, and I always made sure I had enough room for my brother's children to be able to move down with me if so needed, because of the traumatic and toxic relationship he had with their mother. Yeah. So know who your kids are, and I don't care if it's, oh, my name's on the birth certificate. I don't give a fuck whose name's on that birth certificate. I want the DNA test. I know my kids came out I know who their daddy is, and I know who they, and they're definitely my kids. They came out my womb space. They came out of me. They are mine. But so if you're my partner, my counterpart, then you got to know if this child is yours or not. Like, on paperwork, I've got to see the test. Because I'm not putting up with somebody's ratchet ass baby mama. Low vibrational bitch just trying to hang on to somebody who's a good man. Trying to tell him, oh, this is your kid, because I want your money. I want you to pay. Like, no, bitch, no. We ain't playing with that shit. I ain't playing with no trifling ass bitches. And nobody else should either. And, you know, you need to know who the daddy of your children are. Your children need to know who their daddy is. Whether it's somebody honorable or dishonorable, they still need to know where they came from. That is what helps keep them from running into half brothers and sisters later in life and mating. You understand? They're like, oh my gosh, we're so similar, we love each other, and then find out that they're like first cousins or fucking siblings, half brother and sister. Like, what the fuck? Like, ooh, that's ugh. That's not cool, man. That's just not acceptable. Not acceptable at all on any level. I don't give a fuck who you are, what kind of culture you was raised in. It's not acceptable. You know, whatever. It's not. I've seen the results of that. Like, I met a lady who had a child. No, she had twins that time. But she had a child by somebody she did not know was like her first cousin, because they never told her who her daddy is. And it was only by running the tests on the child to see what was up with the child, because it was born like powder. If you've ever seen the movie Powder, the child was like that. And it was one of that, you know, the doctor's like, why were you in a relationship with somebody you were that close kin to? Of course, this was Eastern Kentucky anyway. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is my dad. This is this person's dad. What are you talking about? And that's how she found out that her dad was not her dad. That's a hell of a way to find something out. That's fucking traumatic. That is traumatic as fuck. So, protect your kids from that. Be honest with them about who their daddy is. Because rest assured, my dad made sure we knew who everybody's daddy was. All the scandals. Oh, you can't date... Oh, I kind of like this person, Dad. Who are they? Oh, you can't date them. You can't date them because their mom's real dad is my uncle, so that's not... that's too close kin. I'm like, well, then you need to call her and have her explain to her son why we can't date. Because the dude really likes me and is really interested in me, and I would be very interested in him. But since this, now, I don't want him to think that I'm just rejecting him. You know? I don't want him to feel some type of way because I have to reject him. You know? And that's fucked up. I come from a small town. Yeah. I've always recommended my children to find partners from elsewhere. From somewhere you know, and then ask them who their parents are, and if they don't know, they need to find out. At least figure out what their ancestry is. I don't know, but like that's important. Like that's super important. Like, first of all, you know, for the child deserves to know who their parents are. And second of all, we don't need none of these trifling people out here, you know, claiming, oh, that's my baby. And but men do it too. Don't play with me on that. Men do it too, because like there's been many a guy try to plant one in a female just to have a tie to her for the rest of his life, so she'd be tied to him. Like, there's some low vibrational males out there that be doing that. And, yeah. I've had people, like, really, literally deflate after thinking they've planted the seed and feeling confident that, oh, I'm going to be tied to them for the rest of my life. And for me to say, oh, And they're like, oh, well, that was a strong one. I hope that, if we get pregnant, I'm like, we're not getting pregnant. My tubes are tied. You talk about, pew! Fuck you. Fuck you. So, I'm to the age where I'm not interested in bearing children anymore. I'm enjoying being able to. I was a teenage mom, so now I'm living my life and learning who I am. Aside from my identity as the mother of 3 children and somebody's wife, I'm finding out who I am, and that's important. And that's what I tell my kids. Don't make the same mistakes me and your dad did. Look around you. Learn from people's mistakes and don't repeat them. There ain't no sense in repeating other people's mistakes because you're not the exception. You're not the exception. I mean, you might be an exceptional person, but you're not. Your situation is not the exception. That 1% that it might be, most likely isn't. Don't bank on it. Don't put all your money on that. So yeah, a DNA to date me with the intention of courting and marrying me. Yeah, you're gonna have to have a DNA test. Prove whatever kids is yours is yours. If you think you might have one, then you need to go talk to that person and say, hey, we need a DNA test. I need to know if this child is mine because I'm serious about somebody, and out of respect for her, myself, and the possibility that I may be a father to your child, I want to know. The child needs to know. The child needs to know. Because I've seen what happens to people like that get to 18 and their parents tell them then, like, so and so ain't really your daddy, or the kids at school that know, like, pointed out. That's a big deal too. That's happened in my family quite a bit. With one of my uncles. It's on both sides. Both sides for sure. Yeah. And it's scary whenever you, like, might have a crush on somebody in high school, and then you ask your parent about them. They're like, oh shit, no, what you need to know is that person is technically your first cousin. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. Right? I mean, even people that are from the area that I'm from, when I find out, oh, your mom worked at the same factory as my uncle, are you absolutely sure you know who the fuck your daddy is? Are you absolutely sure? Because you remind me, you remind me of somebody familiar to me. My uncle worked there. He was a hoe. And while I was living with my uncle, actually, there was a child. Somebody got divorced and demanded a DNA test and found out the child wasn't his because he didn't think it was in the first place. Turns out it was my uncle's, and then per the DNA test, he had to pay all kinds of back child support on this kid. Like, I don't want no goddamn financial mess like that. So I'm learning from my people's mistakes and being like, no, we need to find out before we move forward. If you've got any thought that somebody's kid might be yours, you need to contact this person. Find out. Because I don't want to get sidelined and surprised later. Albeit I deal with it accordingly. But I don't want to be, like, happily living life and then all of a sudden we get this fucking curveball with some ratchet ass hoe you fucked back in college or some shit at a fucking frat party. or at a trap house. I don't give a fuck. You know, I don't. Like, I'm not, I'm not having my sanctuary and my haven disrupted like that. Because the first thing I do, if if she's not worthy of being a mother to that child, I will, first of all, we'll snatch the child. The child will come live with us. And she won't be allowed to have parental rights if she's not a good mother. That's just, the child deserves a good raising with people who will love it. Not to be raised by somebody who had the child as a pawn. You know, that's fucking sick. These bitches go around here and they look for people who own land or have things, or that they know will have an inheritance, and they use sex and stuff to get them. And then when a person tries to break up with them, they come crawling back, get them drunk, get them to fuck them, and wind up pregnant. Not one time, not 2 times, but 3 times. Like, bitch, you said you couldn't get pregnant. You told me you couldn't get pregnant, and you thought that he didn't want you because of that. So how is it now that you're pregnant and having a child by my brother then? And for what reason, if you all are not in a stable, healthy relationship? You know? It's obvious to anybody who has eyes to see that these poor children were birthed as pawns when he said he wouldn't marry you. When the dude wouldn't marry you, but you're gonna like have a child by him to secure your security. You ain't no better than the hoes out here having babies for government support and still hoeing. You ain't no different. Tell me how you're different. Because there's no way you're different. So, like, I don't have the patience to deal with trifling ass shit like this, and you shouldn't. If you respect yourself, you won't either. You will not be playing no games, not being jerked around by somebody saying, oh, well, he's the father of my baby, or blah, blah, blah. No, bitch, I want the DNA test, court order, done now. We're going to pay for it. We'll all pay for it. I don't give a fuck. But honestly, the man should have already paid for it and already had his DNA tests done on his children. Like, I don't care if you were married for a long time and these are your kids, you've been paying child support on them, and you know they're yours. I don't give a shit. I want the DNA test. I want proof. I got proof that my kids are mine. They came out my Yahoo. I need proof that your kid's yours, that they came from your seed. It's just that simple. And that's not a high expectation. That's not a standard. You know, it should be standard. It should be a standard you go by. Like, first of all, the child deserves to know who it is. And even if it's, you know, the child deserves to know. So, you know, if you're watching this video and you've got a child that you've been lying to by not telling them who their real other parent is, or if they've been adopted or whatever, have you not watched enough of the movies to see how it hurts the child when they find out that you've been dishonest with them all these years? Have you not seen the results of that? I mean, you can Google it. You can watch videos. You can watch movies, YouTubes, all sorts of different things. I wouldn't advise it. One of my uncle, the uncle that I was talking about, one of his he had 2 females pregnant at once, and so he chose to marry one, and the other one, well, he didn't. But guess what? Those boys wound up growing up together, going to school together, because there was only one school. Well, there wasn't at first. There were a few elementary schools, but everybody went to the same high school. But they lived in the same area of the county, so they all went to the same school. And the kid came out and played unknowingly with his brothers at his dad's house, like whatever. And then when he got 18, somebody finally told him, and he went crazy. He went crazy for a while. When I was a little girl, my dad pointed him out to me at one of the local eating establishments. He said, "That's your first cousin. That's one of your uncles." And he's the one that told me the story about it. And I was like, damn. And I was like, boy, he does look like him. And he definitely eats like him. So yeah, it's really devastating. Because it's like worse than Santa Claus. Don't fucking lie to your kids about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and shit. And the Tooth Fairy. That's just stupid. Because then what are they going to believe whenever they turn 13 and 14 and you've lied to them, made them a goddamn fool to their peers in grade school over Santa Claus and stuff, and now you think they're going to trust you to come to you and talk to you about things that they need to talk to you about? Hell no, they're going to trust their people who told them your parents lied to you. Santa Claus is not real. Your parents is the ones that buy you the gifts. Who you think they're going to trust? They're going to trust the kids that told them the truth. They ain't going to fool with you. And you've lost them. So, be careful what you tell your kids is true. Like, believing in something that's not real is not fun. Especially when you find out you've been fooled the whole time. But, yeah. We got 32 minutes on here. So, yeah, when it comes to... Just recap, when it comes to children, make sure your significant other can produce a DNA test. One way or the other. Or like legal guardianship papers. Legal adoption papers. Something legal paperwork that proves that this child is theirs. Like if the baby mom, if you meet a guy and his baby mama dies and somebody else, and he's the one that, if another person steps in to be that child's parent and they have adopted or have legal guardianship over that child, then just have the paperwork. Because there are kind and wonderful people out there that say, oh, I love you and I love this child that you already have, and I know that it's not mine by blood, but I want to raise it as mine. I want to love your child. There's that out there in the world, and that's fucking beautiful. That's fucking beautiful. I've seen it. I've seen several good men out there that are like that. I've met and known and I know some good single dads. So it's not always the woman, it's not always the man, but like whatever parent you are to this child, whatever your relationship is to these children, make sure you have something official, something legal document, so that there's no bullshit later on after you get into a relationship with somebody you want, and then co-parenting. That'd be, since we're at 34 minutes, I'm going to do one. The next one will be on co-parenting. So, yep. So, stay tuned. Check out the next part.